Austin's the #1 place for remote work in the United States. There are 10,000 Airbnbs in Austin. That's up 83% year over year.
We want to be the most renowned interior design studio in Austin. We don't put TVs in our spaces because we want there to be conversation. At the end of the day, we want people to feel something when they're booking and when they step into the space.
But your calendar is a reflection of your investment in yourself.
Show me your calendar, I'll see your priorities. Show me your bank account and I'll see your priorities.
Nothing changes until you change. Ultimately, the best thing that you can do for yourself is take care of yourself and do the thing that you need to do.
Just be very careful who you let speak into your life. I don't go to Tiger Woods for family advice, right?
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to For Your Own Good. I'm Kassidy Warren. I'm here with Devin and Tim Stanton here in Austin, Texas. You guys are the founders of Creators ATX, which is a faith-based community where you're connecting people and you're on a mission to end the loneliness epidemic, which I think is so cool. And you're the owners of Reclamation Designs studio, where your designs are timeless, intentional spaces, and you're inspired by boutique hotels, which is cool. We'll get into that, but I'm really excited to have you guys here. Thanks.
Thanks for having us on, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's an honor and a pleasure.
Yeah. And this is so cool because this is one of the things I love about podcasting is sort of the reciprocal relationship, where I had Vivian on earlier and she's like, you got to meet these guys. And both of you were down to come down and do this. And we get to have great conversations like we were just having off camera ahead of time. And so I'm excited to share this with everybody. So I was going through your website and I noticed some things. I love your marketing. I love your branding. I love what you're saying. And I noticed it said, you challenge traditional living by fostering meaningful relationships, and you're taking the fight to the loneliness epidemic one person at a time. Can you help me understand like what you guys are doing with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the loneliness epidemic that's going on right now, there's a real need for community and social connection. And we've noticed it not only during the pandemic, but there's this desire for like third places. And for anybody that doesn't know what third places are, it's a place that you spend the most time in outside your home and workplace. And that's why so many places around the world have this built-in community. But what I've noticed is the infrastructure of how we're built here in America. So we get in our car, we drive away from home to work, and we don't pass by the people we want to spend the most time with. And throughout our time and the people that we spent time with, we're like, how do we take the people that we work with, the people that we go to church with, the people we spend time on the weekends with, how do we also work with them and live with them and have this full built-in community? So through some of the different things that we've done, we've built Creators Co-Living, which is one of our co-living communities. But that's ultimately desired and feel the desire for us to build Reclamation, which is design a studio. And how can we take our design studio, create intentional spaces that make people feel good, remove the TVs, get people connected, have prompts and questions and community for people to be around.
Yeah, that's beautifully said.
Yeah, and I noticed on your hat, it's the Creators Community hat, and it says creativity over conformity. And so why is that important to be creating versus conforming?
Yeah, we like to say and pose the question, like, are you a conformist or an outlaw? And I really believe that 1% of the world are creators, but they create 100% of its future. And there's so many people in our network and our community that feel stuck and feel like they have this golden handcuff in corporate America, and they don't have this sense of fulfillment. And so we really want to be the pioneer. We want to be the person to blaze the trail and show these people that like life is more than money and salary and RSU shares. We actually want to go out there into the world and create something that's impactful. And for us too, like our faith is so important to us. And it's really interesting because if you look back at like the Christian church, they used to be so inventive, like created the printing press, higher education, advances in medicine. And now there's like music and art and things of that nature. But we just feel like there's kind of like this scatteredness in Austin where everyone's kind of like in their own pocket working from home, and there's just not a lot of connection. And we really want to cross those wires to see more sparks with people, because we believe that that's where things get created.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we're best friends that just want to build cool stuff together. And the tagline, creativity over conformity, cuts across everything that we do. In the design world, we're trying to take a stance against what is the trendy STR Airbnb design, and how do we fight against that with timeless material, bring in these experiences and things that we've traveled all around the world from Mexico and seen like these raw natural elements that make people feel good. And we feel like there's a huge gap in the marketplace, like creativity or conformity, like taking things that are seemingly opposite. We're heavily inspired by brands like ALD and New York City. And how do we bring that art, music, and culture into design? And then also creativity or conformity in the way that people do community. The people that want to live together, that's the idea of it seems like you're lower social status here because you want to live with cool people. No, I got to live in my apartment. I got to be on my own. I got to grind, keep my head down, build this business. No, it's cool to be in community. And I think we need a shift from self-made to community-made.
Yeah, I think loneliness is like a sign of something deeper. It's like a multitude of like societal pressures or societal demands coupled with like maybe your own insecurities. And I think at a certain point, it's really hard to come back from that, right? If you get too lonely or too isolated, it's really hard to even get the courage or the desire to go out and meet people. And so with social media, double-edged sword, right? Good and bad. But if people in Austin see your content, then they know that they can come out and then they can have community. And so I think the stuff that you guys are doing is pretty incredible. And so let's talk about your designs, because you brought it up. And when I saw the content that you're putting out on the house, right? What's the name of the house?
Casa Pajaro.
Casa Pajaro. So there's a couple of things that you don't know about me and my wife. We name all of our properties. We have 9 short-term rentals. Many of them are in Tucson. I've tried to find Hispanic or Spanish names for them, and I've never really been successful at that. So I love the names that you guys chose. Like there's the Night Owl. There's like these other
Good
names.
Research, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
I try
impressive.
I try to get to know my guests. We have things like Desert Hues, Desert Vibrations, Western Moon. These are the name of our properties, right? And then I saw the rugs on the wall, and I saw the different pots and the textures and the colors. And I was like, there's a very similar through line between what my wife and I do and what you guys are doing. So very impressed with the stuff. But I also noticed, is it just 3 guys?
Yep.
Yeah, the 3 of you. There's no women behind the scenes. There's no like team. It's the 3 guys
and 3 straight guys. That's a little footnote that I feel like is an important one because it's not something that's very common.
Yeah.
Again, we said creativity or conformity in every area of life. And in this industry, 3 straight guys in the design studio is not something you see very often by any means.
I love it. And so tell me some of the things, you said timeless, but like tell me some of the things that you guys do or that you appreciate and that you implement. Because you do mainly like Airbnbs and then your co-living spaces, right?
Yep.
And so how do you go about thinking about these designs and what you are doing to implement in them?
Yeah, well, we first and foremost feel like this opportunity in time, specifically for STR, is really disruptable. And Devin is really kind of like the in-house data scientist when it comes to that. And we take a very data-driven approach. Like, yeah, of course, the numbers, the revenue, things of that nature, but also like design is very mathematical. Like primary and secondary colors are very mathematical. And I think in this culture of TikTok and Instagram and Pinterest, everything becomes very like copycat. And even like around Austin, Devin and I call this the rainbow explosion, but we see all of these B&Bs that are the same exact sort of like color vomit. But the thing is it feels very chaotic, like in your soul. And at the end of the day, we want to create experiences where people can unplug, where people can come around a table and break bread together and tell stories. And as Devin alluded to from the jump, we don't put TVs in our spaces because we want there to be conversation. And we're so inspired by things that stand the test of time, and all of the international trips that we take. We're incredibly inspired by Mexico and things that are handmade. And we really want our designs to tell a story. And from the moment that people book to the moment they show up in the space, we want to create this through line from the digital experience to the in-person experience. And one of the things we really believe in too, from a hospitality and branding perspective, is a nod to what you're saying is how do you create a property that's not just a number and an address, but it's an unforgettable experience and it's a brand. Because at the end of the day, we want people to feel something when they're booking and when they step into the space. And so we're really like plant our stake in storytelling and what is the emotion that we're trying to prompt from our guest. and a house that's actually a stone's throw away from here in East Austin. We've created these characters that are the hosts, and it all started with this Facebook Marketplace find, which was this hipster photo of JFK. He had like a little nose ring, he had this thin mustache, this really cool shirt. We found it. And then there was this other piece of art where it was this lady with this bob haircut, and she was wearing a disco ball over her head. And I had this thought, what if Jack and Jackie left their political careers and they started this kind of like hipster B&B in Austin? And so we've basically launched that with a client of ours, and the people that book are actually interacting with these fictional characters we've created. And Jackie's an interior designer and she loves fashion, and Jack likes coffee. And there's this debate between the two of them when you book that here's Jack's favorite taco spot is El Norteño, but Jackie's is this other one. And so as a consumer, we really believe that that is the new wave of experience. Because let's be real, Airbnb is a race to the bottom. I got to add a pool. I got to add all of these things. That puts a big dent in your pocketbook, but we're really taking this kind of creative approach to like, we want to create this unforgettable experience, and we're incredibly passionate about that. And the market is actually reacting to that because it's so differentiated and it doesn't really exist.
I love everything that you just said, because you're storytelling, you're incorporating the design, you're creating characters, you're like, I say evoking emotions. I always try to evoke emotions through design and through entry into a space, and the moments and the spaces throughout the property where you can sit and you're meant to feel something there. And usually, same thing. What we're trying to do is create a space for people to unplug and be at peace, right? Because you're so connected. We do have TVs, but we only put them in the living room. We don't put them in the bedrooms. Everyone has tablets and phones. Like, you do not need TVs in the bedrooms. I think it's so tacky. Sorry, but I do. And then, yeah, the murals and the neon signs and the disco balls, and like, it doesn't light my soul up to do all that stuff. Now I got a couple very good friends in Austin that they do that, and I love them to death, and they do an excellent job at it. And they are different than a lot of the other ones out there. And I think that's great for them. And there's gonna be a lot of people that are successful doing that. But for me, the thing that I like to create is a timeless design, and something that, like, the textures and the feeling, and the fabrics and the moments that you create. So, yeah, I love that. And
you're speaking my love language, by the way.
I know, you were talking.
Have you been in our group chat? Did you make your way in somehow?
I mean, it's what I realize that I appreciate so much about everything.
Yeah, and maybe like one footnote to add to that is our clients that we work with, a lot of them, they're like, hey, I get that. And they almost feel that it's a necessary evil because it's the only thing that seems to be presenting itself in the marketplace. And the people that create those spaces, the designers, they have done such a good job on social media in the way that they're able to bring those things to life. But I think as an owner, it's like, yeah, I want to do the Airbnb and I want to make sure I cash flow. But for us, we're like, hey, we can do that for you, but we're protecting your investment long time. Because if you painted the inside of your property a glitter color, it's like you have to undo all of that work when you go to list it on the market, unless you're trying to sell it to another investor, which is really just like narrowing your pool of buyers. So we really take that data-driven approach to be like, how do we protect this for you? And not only that, how do we enhance the value of your property and your place long-term?
Yeah, this is something that I teach people that are doing Airbnbs is I call it the velocity of money. Part of it is you want to force appreciation, right? So what they're doing is they're dumping a bunch of cash into these properties to make sure that they cash flow. But you likely aren't actually adding value to the property in a lot of cases, right? And so you're spending 400 grand on a house, you put 100 grand in just so it cash flows, but that house is probably still worth 400 grand and you just put 100 grand into it. You know what I mean? So you're already underwater, and then you're trying to make that up with cash flow.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, but what you're saying, and this is what I teach, is find the updates that make sense to improve the value of the property. So for example, at a recent property we did, we added a bunch of slider doors, these big, amazing 3-panel slider doors out to the pool. We added a pool, which, is a lot of work, but that's what we wanted. And we added all these tile elements and design elements. We added a bathroom because it made sense to have a bathroom per bedroom, right? Those all added to the value of the house, and they enhanced the experience for the guest. So it's like, that makes a lot of sense. But the designs, the selections, they're gonna help us sell the house when we go to do that. They're not gonna actually hurt us when we go sell the house.
Well, that required a lot of strategy from you to like think through what those things were. And I think generally when in our fast paced world, it's the rinse and repeat. And as you have a business too, that's really hard to be like, hey, we're not just going to take this template and apply it, but we're going to be really thoughtful about the way the light comes in and what the architecture is, the existing features that we want to accentuate. And there's a level of thoughtfulness required that you're clearly doing in your properties, which we applaud you for.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. And so what's the plan for that business moving forward on the design side?
Well, we want to be the most renowned interior design studio in Austin. We feel like it's prime for the taking, and we do see a lot of copy and paste type of studios. And for us, we have such a deep love for it, creating those spaces that do evoke the emotion. So we're actually going to be at the Interior Design Awards here in Austin in about a month. And so that's going to be our coming out party on the red carpet for us to shake hands and meet all the who's who like in the industry. But we set our sights really, really, really high to go and do that. And also like we have like a level of excellence that we carry like through our work that we don't feel comfortable bringing something to the market that's 70% there. And ultimately becoming the most renowned design studio in Austin, we want that to basically be the rocket fuel to fuel the community that we're also building here in Austin.
All right. So you're going to these awards. You're just going, right? Are you up for any awards?
Not this year. Okay. Not yet.
Next year,
not yet. That's right.
Play it in our state.
That's right. And so you're going to try to increase your reach and your reputation, which we were talking about off camera, that people need to know who you are. And you're kind of calling your shot, right? Which I love.
That Babe Ruth pointing over the wall.
Pointing that bat out to the center field. I love that. And so what do you think it will take to become the most renowned design studio in Austin? What are the other things that it'll take?
Well, I think for us, we have to venture out and do more than just B&B. And we're so incredibly thankful to have a few opportunities in front of us now where we have this opportunity to take on a wedding venue that's actually in New Jersey. We also have a house in the Hamptons that's been put in front of us to take over, to transform this house into a boutique hotel, essentially. And then we have another project here at the Garage of the Americas, right by the racetrack, where we're basically redefining what the man cave is. And so for us, back to the feeling that you wanted to evoke, like even a doctor's office is like, how do we disrupt a doctor's office where I walk into this place, I have all these fluorescent lights, and whatever I'm going through as a patient, like we want to create an environment that's warm, welcoming, feels supportive. You can get your espresso, but why does everything have to be white and bright like in the doctors? Who said that that's how it has to be? And so again, back to like our core message is creativity over conformity. We really want to step into places that maybe interior designers haven't touched and create something that's really notable, that can have an impact on the people that fill those spaces.
Yeah, and to add to that, there's a couple different profiles that we work with, and we talked about the boutique STR and investor. Like the reason we're starting there is because that's what we know intimately very well. We have a portfolio of STR, MTR homes, and we're starting there. But at the end of the day, we just want to work on projects where somebody wants to tell a story about their property. Whether it's the wedding venue with racehorses there and this massive venue with multiple houses, down to somebody in Austin that wants to tell a story with their STR, that wants to create a unique, differentiated experience. Those are the people we're working with. I mean, when we look at the stats here in Austin, there are 10,000 Airbnbs in Austin. That's up 83% year over year. There's a lot of the supply coming to the market. But occupancy has stayed pretty steady between 50 and 60% year over year. So even though there was 8,000 more Airbnb listings coming to the market, there's still demand for it. If we look at it, Austin's the #1 place for remote work in the United States. So there's people coming here. And then kind of the last stat I'll leave you guys with, because I'm really digging into the numbers. My background was in real estate tech. So I helped them build Zillow, specifically the marketplace, helped them build their Zillow offers program and acquisitions for multiple years. So we're just always thinking about the numbers and how can we tie that back to our design and our experience. When we look at South by Southwest here next week, if you have a chance to come back, you should. $280 million is coming in. And think about the profile. If you are an owner or soon to be investor, think about the profile of the people that come to South by Southwest. film, art, music, you're going to get a very sophisticated, affluent demographic. Now reverse engineer what they want. You know, I don't hate on any other design styles that we don't do because at the end of the day, it works for them.
Yeah.
But if you want to reverse engineer where the puck is going, not where the puck currently is, that's what an investor does. And that's how we're thinking about design.
Yeah, because what a lot of the current designers do in Austin, and we see it elsewhere now, is they look at what's already worked. And then they do that and then they build on it. And so that's kind of how we've gotten to this bachelorette, you know, kind of theme and the explosion of colors and all that and the neon signs and all that, because the designers can point to those and say, look, this is what everyone's doing. This is how much they're making. This is what you should do. Check the boxes and you'll start making money, right? And then depending on their execution or what location or additional things they add or take away will determine whether, you know, how successful they are or not. But what you guys are doing is you're saying, I'm focusing on the creatives, the people with money, the people that appreciate finishes, the people that appreciate design, and I'm going to go serve their needs. And I'm going to go make sure that they see my property and I'm going to give them experience that they didn't even know existed, you know, with this Jack and Jill idea that you talked about. And so this is the thing that I talk to people about because it's squishy. You can't point to the boxes that you need to check to say, this is how you're going to make money. You have to have faith that what you're doing is going to solve the problem for rich people, for people with money, for people that are coming here, the creatives. And you have to have so much faith in yourself and the conviction of being able to do this. And then also not blow your budget out on everything that you're doing, right? Yeah. So I think that's really cool.
I think when you're really a creator too, it's like you're always pushing the needle forward. And I think back to the great artists like Andy Warhol and Basquiat, no one was doing what they were doing when they started and brought that into the marketplace. And there's this paradigm where like people in finance need creatives because they don't have that artistic or like cool factor, but creatives need finance people because they need the money to fuel their vision. And so for us, it's like, if you create the thing, they will come essentially. And I think we really pride ourselves on being the pioneer, bringing ingenuity to spaces, really disrupting and challenging the status quo in the best way possible. And really what we're finding now is like people are reacting to that positively. And the last thing I'll say on that is as a creative too, it's really easy to like put your art out there, which is what we believe what we do is art. But where Devin comes in is he's able to come through with the numbers and he's able to underwrite using that very thing. And so we got the best of both worlds and it really makes for a unique solution.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I've been able to bridge the gap a little bit. But I also want to surround myself with even more creatives, even people that are way more creative than me. But then I can also do the numbers and I'm also like, I know that I can't fully underwrite this to say that this is going to work, but I know that I have faith and that there's examples out there that show me that it can work. And so we're looking at a hotel right now and we're working with people that are very creative. They're also business owners and they have big budgets and I do the initial underwriting and I'm like, I don't know how this is going to work. But then I go to them and I'm like, look, all I need you to do is there's these 5 hotels that I know of. I need you to go talk to them. I need you to go get a hold of them and you need to show me like how they did what they did. And then we just need to have a conversation because I want to give you everything you want. I want to make sure that you can create the thing that you want, like, and spend as much money as you want because I know that that's what we can do. Like, I want to do that. But at the same time, you do have to have some limitations on the budget, but
yeah. And I do think that that's getting easier. And for us to like, we want to be on the cutting edge of technology and use all these great AI tools. And there's a project that we have in the Dahlonega Mountains, like down in Georgia, similar to like what you're building. It's going to be a Nordique spa, which is like a Canadian spa. But you wouldn't believe what you can do in deep research. Like you can write do all your underwriting. It can do total addressable market. It can figure out if it has the right type of clientele and customer for people that want to get massages and that would want to go to a spa. So I think there's so much data now that's accessible for $20 a month that as an investor, you can get access to. And that's a really important thing for us because we don't want to have someone throw us a check. We design the place and then the thing doesn't perform. It's like, we really want to make sure it's airtight in our analysis.
Yeah. Cause you guys are talking about basically going from homes and Airbnbs to now growing your business into bigger spaces, different markets. And so what you're doing, and this is what my mentor told me initially about my business, about running Airbnbs, is he's like, your business is too small. these houses, the Airbnb business, it's too small and you need to go bigger. You need to think bigger, you need to scale up. And so that was part of the transition to boutique hotels. And so residential homes as Airbnbs, for the most part, it's not a big enough business for you to scale and to actually create a life, I think, of abundance and everything that you want. For a lot of people, getting one Airbnb and having it cash flow, that's great. And that might be all that they ever want to do. But I think for people like you and me, we want to go create incredible spaces. The Nordic spa, you don't know this about me, but last night I was sauna, cold plunge over at Squatch. They have a good setup, but I also do up in Squamish and Whistler. There's a lot of sauna, cold plunge, and it's like one of my favorite things for me to be able to do. And one of the things that I want to build is a outdoor in nature wellness facility.
It's incredible. I feel like it maybe exists more in Canada, but there's a prime opportunity for that in the US too. And I think even from what we see in Austin, the breakneck speed, the work, all the hustle and bustle, like people want to be able to get away. And the cool thing about Texas is people drive. Like Texas is huge. And so I think there's a huge opportunity like in the tertiary market outside of like Austin, San Antonio to create something like that and even across the whole US.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know Ben Wolf at all. He's in Austin, but he created Onera Fredericksburg and Onera Wimberley. These are the resorts out in nature. He created those. It didn't take him very long, relatively. But he's in Austin. You guys should definitely try to connect with him. Absolutely. And I can try to make that happen if you want. But I wanted to ask, Devin, you were corporate. Were you corporate?
I was, yeah.
Okay, so you both were corporate.
For way too long.
Me too. Way too long. Way too long. And so then you tell me a little bit about leaving and then get into the golden handcuffs. And you were a realtor. Devin was a realtor for a little bit too.
Yeah, I've dabbled in everything. And a quick background leading up to that is I was raised by a single mother who had me when she was 15 years old. And I think a tumultuous upbringing, I just had a lack of like sense of identity of what I wanted to do. And any moment I felt like we started to have success, like our house got foreclosed on in 2008 and we lost everything. And like throughout that journey of like growing up, I was in my 9-to-5 in the mundane routine. I was consuming a lot of alcohol and just to be honest, drugs. And I was just sedating from life. I'm like, I just don't want to feel or understand or just recognize that I don't have purpose. But instead of me doubling down to figure out what that actually is, I'm just going to sedate myself until work in the morning. I'll get through it. I'll live for the weekends. And this cycle just kept happening and happening. And eventually, just through some great mentors, community, and people in my life that poured into me, that was that first real estate property that I bought as a house hack. And I started co-living and I started having community. And then the community started growing into this thing that I'm like, wow, I can solve a problem I once had. Because I think entrepreneurs, a lot of times, they just want to solve the problems they once had. And for me, it was loneliness and isolation. And like, how can I take real estate, the thing that I love, combine it with community, and then bring it all together to build businesses with some of my best friends? And I think that was like the full journey from like lost to no purpose, down to like, hey, I actually am now the most purpose-driven and happy I've ever been. And it's because I get to serve the people around me. And that feels really good.
Yeah, because you said the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why, right?
Yeah.
And so what is your why more specifically? Because you said it's, and I've heard a lot of entrepreneurs say this, is like being the person that you needed when you were a kid, right? And like what was the bad thing that happened to you that you want to prevent others from feeling? Is that kind of where your why stems from?
Close. The why is solving the problem, not necessarily from when I was a kid, but 2 to 3 years ago when I was in the deepest stages of isolation and darkness I've ever had, and I had no friends and community to go to. That's the problem I'm solving. Almost every other day, I have a guy coming up to me and saying that, dude, I have nobody to go to. I feel so lost. I had a conversation with a guy this morning, literally this morning, that said that he wanted to end his life. And because of that, and we look at the statistics and you look at the US Surgeon White Papers General of there's a loneliness epidemic, and you not having one single friend to connect with in your life is the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Like, think about that. When we think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there's like food, home, shelter. But at the very bottom, we don't think about community as a big piece of that. But when we look at the studies, not having community, not having somebody to talk to increases heart failure, increases dementia. And so I think the reason I bring this up is because all the community that we have, it's not just a want, it's a true need in their community. And we're seeing that in a lot of the guys. So my why is ultimately solving that problem I once had for myself 2 to 3 years ago. How do I get as many of my friends out of their jobs, out of their 9-to-5s, if they want to, get them together, living together, building together, and growing together?
Beautiful. Yeah. And maybe just to give Dev like a quick shout out for all of the irons that we have in the fire at the moment. He does such a good job of being intentional to keep his calendar open for people that really, really need it. And I think that's such a unique thing in 2025. And, one of the things that we're incredibly passionate as it relates to community and specifically men is there's this misunderstanding of what masculinity means in 2025. And we think of it as a Y and X axis. And on the Y axis, you have power and competence. And then on the X axis, you have self-sacrifice for the greater good. And power and competence, men are running after that at a breakneck speed, but we've forgotten the self-sacrifice for the greater good. And we really want to instill that in the guys that are in our community to be like, hey, hold on, life's not about what you can get. It's about what you can give. And I think that's the aha moment, that unlock, same for me, was like, oh, I felt fulfilled when I knew what I needed to do and what my skill set was to give to other people, to raise up others and really just like speak into that masculine heart. And it's something that the world needs more of. And I think there's this toxic bend right now to masculinity, and you can chart all these different figures like on that graph. You can put Andrew Tate, power and competence, super high, self-sacrifice for the greater good is probably pretty low. Our guy Elon, who lives in Austin too, power and competence, super high, probably higher on self-sacrifice for the greater good. But at the end of the day, who are the role models that are up and to the right on that graph? And generally, they're not the people we celebrate. Even Steve Jobs, Tom Brady, like these people were so good at the power and competence piece, but the self-sacrifice for the greater good was just like lacking a little bit. And honestly, the guys in our community, I think they've had the breakthrough and found the fulfillment when they're like, oh, that self-sacrifice for greater good. I caught that vision and found out what that meant. And now I feel more fulfilled and whole.
Thank you for saying that. And to round out that point is to give you like some practical advice if you're listening, is like, how do I find community? It's like, okay, here's the problem of loneliness. There's isolation. I feel that. What's the next thing you need to do? Number one, you need to have the humility to like raise your hand and say, I need help. As a man, I feel my ego, and it's a constant daily battle that I have to fight. And it's not something that I solved once and I'm just don't have ego anymore. It's a daily fight every single day. Just like your comfort zone is a daily fight every single day. Are you going to wake up and go to the gym that morning because you said you were the night before? That's getting outside your comfort zone. Now, on top of that, are you willing to raise your hand, be vulnerable, and ask for help? And Tim's done a great job at this. He's opened up his doors. We run the largest in-person faith-based community in Austin for men. And guys are just knocking down the door to come through, and Tim always keeps his doors open. So number one, Tim has a heart of serving others, raising his hands, and also making his calendar available. Step number two is find those people and now make that ask. What I call the 1 in 100 chance. Take that 1 in 100 chance to reach out to that person that may not respond. But if you do that every single day, which usually takes maybe just 5 minutes, if I just picked up my phone right now and say, hey, Matthew McConaughey, I would love to have you on the podcast, and put it down, because I know you're going to get him on the podcast soon.
Yep, that's right.
And we're speaking that into existence. It's like that, what's that 1 in 100 chance? You do it every day for a year, you're probably going to have at least 3 big wins throughout your year. So now make that ask, go and host things, go and ask people to do things, create the events. Don't wait for the community, go and create the community. And number 3 is extreme accountability. Now ask for the guys to give you the smoke. Like my gym partner in the morning, we made a contract and we said that if you're not in the gym by 6 a.m. down to the millisecond, then you're going to have to pay me $25. And if you don't show that day, it's going to be $50. Here's the contract. Here are your number of sick days. And we sign that. Now let guys speak into your life. And I'll leave you with this. You're like, I don't know where to start. I don't know how to raise my hand. As an adult, go and find weekly community that you can plug into that's on the calendar every single week so you don't have to think about it. A run club, church, a small group on Tuesdays, pickleball Thursdays, whatever it is. That's probably a good first step that I've seen for guys to just get out and just meet somebody.
Yeah, it's really like when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of changing, that's when I decided to start to get help. Because it was a similar experience for me. Through the pandemic and heads down in the work, it became very isolating, very lonely. Like, it was just all about work. It was frustrating. I was dealing with contractors, and I started getting exposed to other information and realizing I was stuck. But the pain of staying the same was greater than the pain of changing and asking for help. And so I'm so thankful that I reached out and I started doing things for myself and creating that change that I needed. But how does someone, because Tim, back to what you were saying about the X and Y axis, which I love that. I think that's pretty genius, actually.
Shout out Kevin Reddington. He was the one that came up with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our boy,
I think
one of the guys in the community.
Yeah. And I agree that there's versions of masculinity, and yeah, we are leaning towards a direction that can be, I think, toxic in a lot of the ways that you described. So how does someone feel comfortable trying to give or add value or ask for help when they feel like they have not made it, or that they've been left behind in society?
Man, that's a really, really good question. I think in my own journey, I was someone who, I'm gonna get a little emotional here, but I feel like I was not qualified to step into really anything. And I had a mentor who was discipling me, and he saw things inside of me that I didn't see inside myself. And so it started with him. And because he saw something in me and he invested in me, that's what ultimately pushed me forward. And he saw that there could be fruit in my life with other guys. And he saw me as a leader. And I think, that's the why that'll make you cry, so to speak, that we have, because it's like all these guys that we have, there's something inside of them that they don't see inside their self. And it takes time for us to be like, what is the gold? What is the jewelry inside of people that we can really pull out of them? And so I think in the culture of self-help, it's really easy to be like, hey, well, do it, figure it out. But I think you do need those people in your life that can be an advocate for you. And to answer your question directly, I would double click on what Devin said, because community is not something you find on the side of the road. It's something you have to cultivate. And my mentor always told me, he's like, leaders don't wait for phone calls, they place them. And I think there's someone in your life that you can tap into that's further than you. And I think for us, in our faith, it's like we believe that, we're able to love because we're first loved by God, and so our love for other people comes from the overflow of that. And so I think it's really tricky, but it's easy to sit inside in your silo and to not do anything. But there's one person that you can go and do something for. And, maybe the last thing I'll say on that is, I really felt like I couldn't step into things until I was qualified, because I was dealing with certain baggage or bondage or whatever the thing might be. But it was the very act of me stepping into that thing that freed me from those things. And so I think it's just, as men, we got to operate in courage and boldness to take that step and to shoot your shot, essentially.
Yeah, I talk a lot about creating your reality. I talk a lot about you create your own reality. I was victim of myself telling other people what they should be doing and giving suggestions. And I thought I was helping, right? Like, oh, you should do this, you should do this. And what I ended up finding out is I was projecting my own desires for myself onto other people. I'm like, you guys should do this, you should do this. When in reality, it's like, oh no, I want to do that. But I was too afraid to take that step.
Wow.
And now what I teach is you create your reality and you pull your future forward. If you want to be a man of community or creating something, whatever it is you want, you just start doing that stuff right now. You just start, if you want to be someone that hosts events, literally just host an event. Contact people. It may not, the thing that you want to do, if you want to make $1 million or whatever, you want to own a bunch of houses, yeah, you're not going to buy 10 houses tomorrow, but what you will do is you will take the steps and you speak as if you're already doing it. You say, I own property. I am a creator of community. I am this thing, right? And when you speak it as if you've already done it, and then you do the things that your future self would do, that's how you create your reality. Nothing changes until you change. And so pulling your future forward and taking the steps now. And the way I like to frame it for anyone listening is when you're faced with a decision of, do I say yes? Do I say no? Do I go? Do I not go? Do I create? Do I not create? You visualize your future self. You ask your future self and you say, what would my future self do? What would Kassidy 5 years from now do, right? So if Kassidy is going to be one of the best podcasters in the world, and 5 years from now, that's what he's doing, what does Kassidy today do? He goes and he starts his podcast and he goes and he does everything that the best podcasters in the world do. And he learns and he gets great and he gets guests and he's not afraid and he makes the call and he asks for help and he does all those things. And he does all those things. And so whatever it is that you want to do, you just start doing that thing now. And if you need help, you reach out for help.
Yeah, that's so good. I feel that the self-talk is so important. And as men too, we're out in the world, whether you work a W-2 job or whatever it is, but you're getting beat up constantly throughout the day. And it's really tough to navigate the world just as a whole. And I think that self-talk to ourselves, like, I'm not good enough. I don't have enough energy. I don't have enough ideas. I don't have enough resource. And yeah, it's like a reprogramming. And I love what you said about doing that. And I think for us, like Devin will reprogram me, whereas I have the off day and he's able to pull me forward by speaking life into me. And I think we're really passionate about speaking to what people can become and not where they are, you know? Yeah. And it's basically creating that archetype for someone to be like, well, I don't think I could do that. But when we're speaking that into someone else's life, it's like this cognitive dissonance where it's now there's this gap to be like, oh, you think I'm that? And then there's that gravitational pull and you're calling someone out and calling them up to something more.
Yeah, we are impacted by our environments. Like, and so if you are surrounded by people that are pushing you and growing you, this idea of positive peer pressure is such a good thing. Even like when I'm at the gym and there's other really strong people around, I am like really paying attention to my form. I'm making sure that I'm doing better because like they might be looking, I don't know, but also I should just be doing it that way anyways. When I put the camera on me to check my form, I go harder and I have better reps. And like, there's this positive peer pressure that is good for us. And where a lot of the frustration and the feelings of loneliness and depression and sadness come from is we're stuck. We're stagnant. We're not growing. We are people that need to grow, and we need to grow into what we want and not what someone else wants us to be, right? We need to grow into our future selves. We need to grow into ourselves. And when we're stagnant, we're dying. And so having the people like you around, creating contracts, like that's the thing is people that don't do the self-help stuff or like listen to podcasts like this or like get mentors, they don't realize that Devin, what you said about creating the contract with your buddy, that's real shit that people do. Like that's real accountability that people do. Yeah. But someone might hear that and be like, oh, that's stupid. Why would you ever do like
stay hard, Gabby Goggins? Like, don't make fun of it, right?
Yeah,
but it works.
Yes. And there's a different flavor. Like some people need that. Some people just need something different, but like that's really how you get out of your like bad situation is you go do the things that are necessary to go do it.
100%. You don't get the hand that you're dealt in life. You don't choose that, but you decide what you do with that hand going forward. And I think ultimately, as you try to move forward in life, in my own life, actually, I am not the most motivated person. I am not the smartest person in the room. I had a late start to what I believe was my career, but the reason why I'm here today is because I doubled down on the idea of extreme accountability in every area of my life, from the time I wake up and get to the gym, to how we build our business, to the guys we have that mentor. I say yes to the things that are pretty much impossible to go back on. And what I think it's, what is it? Burning the boats. It's like the idea of the story of Cortez. He came onto the island with his men, landed on that island, and said that the only way we get off this island is by defeating the enemy and leaving on their boats. And I think we all have to make more decisions in our life. It's burn the boats. I'm going to sign this contract and I'm going to have to pay you an upwards of multiple thousands in a year if I don't show up in the gym and say the person I'm going to be. And those are the kind of people we need to speak into our life, and we have to allow them to.
Yeah, and Devin sent me that contract. My lawyer's been reviewing it for 3 months. So.
Yeah. So you haven't committed quite yet.
Not the 5 a.m. club.
No, we all have our own thing. But it's like, how do you take extreme accountability into your life? And it just starts with reaching out, raising your hand, finding the right people.
Yeah, and once you can recognize when you're not taking accountability, because it looks different. It's the leader that takes accountability for their team that made mistakes. It's still on them. They made the hire, they made the decision, like whatever it is, it's nobody else's fault. As soon as you can start only focusing on yourself, and I mean that in such a positive way, meaning like, how do you feel in this situation? What are you doing? How are you responding? And you're not worried about what anyone else is doing. That was one of my problems. You know, like I talk about road rage a lot, right? People that drive around and they're like cussing and doing this at all the other people driving. Like, why, man? Like, you're wasting so much energy and you're creating such a negative environment in your mind and for those people around you, when all you have to do, you don't have to react. You don't have to react and you don't know their situation. When you can just focus on yourself and how you respond to situations and just keep going, and your energy is solely focused on the thing that you want to do. I think the problem is, I think so many people don't have direction. So many men don't actually have direction, and they've ended up in this life, this marriage, this family, this W-2 job. They're mid-30s and they realize that this is it and this is not the thing that I thought it was, but I don't know what to do. And it's too hard to say I need help, and it's too hard to say I'm going to do something different because I got a paycheck coming in and I got to pay for all my kids and I got to go to private school and I got to do all this stuff. It's hard, but ultimately the best thing that you can do for yourself is take care of yourself and do the thing that you need to do for yourself. Come on. I'm passionate about this stuff.
That's good, man. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, where do we go from here? You guys are doing a lot of fitness stuff. I saw on the website you do Curl Club, Cove Club. Like, is this stuff that like you do for the community?
Yeah, so we have different ways for people within the Creators ATX community to engage. And whether you want to show up on Tuesday where Tim's leading a word through small group, or you want to engage on Saturday in Curl Club, we want to create different entry points for anybody to engage the way that they want, because it's not the actual activity that matters, it's the conversations in between. And that's why community is important. And co-living or co-working, it's even if you're building completely separate businesses, it's when we're stopping for lunch across the street where you mention you have a marketing lead gen problem and I know a marketing agency guy and I get to connect you with somebody else from the community. So we just want to do what we call filling in the white space. And what that means is I'm actually going to pass it to Tim here because he's the one that created the white space in this idea.
I did, yeah. So we basically took the calendar, we blocked every single hour of the day, make the assumption that you sleep 8 hours, you better sleep 8 hours, or at least fighting for that 8 hours. Color in all the meals that you have, the amount of hours that you got to work, side hustle. At the end of the day, when you then look at the calendar, there's a lot of white space that's not allocated. And one of the things that we do in group too is something that comes to me a lot is like, I don't have time, but there's what you were talking about, like the emotional maturity to figure out how to respond, even like take the inventory of my life to see where I'm at, is forcing people to really look at that. I'm like, tell me you don't have time. Let me see your screen time, how many hours you're logging on Instagram, Netflix, fill in the blank. And so for us, we're pinpointing the white space on the calendar, and then we're trying to figure out how do we fill that white space. And for whatever reason, men do so much better bonding over activities, doing things, whether that's the gym, whether that's going out on the boat. But something that I really have a heart for is like, we need more people around the dinner table to have the conversations that we're having today, because the breakthrough doesn't happen unless you're able to be vulnerable and to open up. And we have this term that I don't know if we coined it, but it's vulnerability, like FAUX, fake vulnerability. Guys like, oh, I used to struggle with that. I used to struggle with porn. I used to do this, but it's like, in this moment, in this time, like, can you be vulnerable and open up? And so with those activities, it's actually like feeds into then our Tuesday group, which is called Growth Group. And that's how we bring people to the table to feel comfortable, because it's an emotionally mature person's not going to word vomit and share your deepest, darkest sins, right? So you want to be measured. Someone that's emotionally healthy is going to be really measured. And it's meeting guys at the gym, breaking bread, having lunch, working together. So we really try to color in that white space, because that's where we'll say like the wires cross. And when wires cross, you kind of get those sparks.
Yeah. I think the way that I look at calendar, because if you're not using your calendar to like manage your time, manage your day, then other people are filling your calendar, filling your time with things that you didn't ask for, you didn't prioritize. And so your calendar is a reflection of your investment in yourself. Whatever your calendar says and however it's filled in is how you're spending your time and how you're investing in yourself. And so what you're saying is you guys are creating these events that are geared around investing in yourself in different ways, like taking self-inventory on how your life's going, reducing screen time, improving their lives, and obviously having fun and creating that community.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Show me your calendar, I'll see your priorities. Show me your bank account and I'll see your priorities. It's simple. It's like, take a look and inventory of what you prioritize your time. Everybody says, I want to go and buy my first property. Like, hey, have you talked to an agent yet? No. Have you started to think about how much money you need to save for a down payment? It's like, oh, that's a really good question. It's like, do you really want to buy a house, or are you just saying that because everybody else wants to? And I think everybody needs to take that same inventory of what are the 2 or 3 things that I've said to people in my circle that I want to do. Now look at your time blocks, look at your calendars, and tell me if you've actually allocated the time for that. So it's, how do you get really intentional with those time blocks?
Yeah, the first step that I tell people when they're actually wanting to commit and start a journey down real estate investment, whatever they decide to do, is you need to look at your calendar and you need to subtract everything that is draining your energy or draining your time that doesn't allow you to accomplish your goal, right? People have families and all that, but you need to renegotiate your social contracts with your families, with your friends, with yourself, and say, I'm going to spend 5 to 9 researching properties, calling agents, doing, like, if you're really committed, your calendar will reflect the time that you're investing in your future, right? And your future, your present, your current reality is based on every single decision that you've made up to this point. And so you are perfectly operating within your world that you've designed based on all the decisions and the time that you've spent. So think about what your life could be like if you actually focused your attention and your time on designing your life the way that you want. So I love that.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure to feel like you need to make all these net new decisions, especially if you're in a place where you haven't been making great decisions. And Devin says, like, do you want the smoke? It's like, do you want that accountability? And the crazy thing is like what I asked, show me your screen time. I've done that a couple of times. I had one guy who was willing to even like show that, but he was like, dude, I want change. So you have to be able to be vulnerable. And it's something that we call full contact friendship. And like the Bible says, is iron sharpens iron, man sharpens man. Like we should be making each other sharper and push each other to the person that God's called us to be. But when you get those knives out and you get those swords out, people are going to get nicked up. And sometimes it doesn't feel good to get a sharp word from your boy that's telling you like, hey, you've missed this thing consistently, or you haven't been showing up the way that you said you have. So I think those contracts, whether they're in writing, they're verbal, they're not coming to the forefront. And I'm a huge believer that the reason why we're seeing like the majority of people that are incarcerated, the majority of people that are addicts, the majority of the people that are shooting up the schools, this isn't a female problem. This is like acutely men. And I think these are the steps that we need to take to be healthy and whole, is to operate within community. And it's something for people that's really hard to find in 2025 in our digital world.
The sharp words from your friends and your family are the real moments when things change.
Ooh.
That's the radical accountability that you were talking about. You are holding yourself accountable when you're putting yourself in these situations where you're hearing the truth from your friends and family. And then it might hurt, it might sting, you might not agree with it, you might get in a fight, you might yell at each other. For me, when that happens later that night, I'm like, damn, they were right.
Yep.
They were right.
And we say you got to have spurable skin. We're in Texas, right? So you got the spurs out. Like, do you have skin that's spurable, that's like, ooh, that hurt, but I'm going to bounce back and I'm going to get this thing moving in the right direction?
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing to add to that that's been insanely helpful in my life is, in order for people to speak into your life or for you to speak into somebody else's life, you need to know their dreams, goals, and desires. Because if you start giving unsolicited feedback that is not in line with their goals, going back to the awareness that you had, is we're sometimes projecting like, hey, this is great advice, you take it, I don't want it. And that's not the kind of change that actually moves people forward. The kind of change that moves people forward is when, hey, my dream and my goal this year is to lose 5 pounds. So if you're eating too much fried chicken, I'm going to tell you, right? Because I told you my dreams and desires. In my own life, I've told people like, hey, I want to buy this property. I want to invest in this thing, and I want to build this business with my friends, and I want to have impact. If I'm doing anything that's outside of those things, tell me. And now, who do you go to for advice It's the people that actually you would trade lives for that thing in their life. And I think a lot of the big problems we had when we talk about Tom Brady and Steve Jobs is they were really good at one thing in their life, but we start to accept all the other advice in other areas of life. And I like to think of 4 areas of my life: my family, faith, and fitness and finance. I don't go to Tiger Woods for family advice. Right? And I don't go to Michael Jordan for golf advice. But who are the people or the things that you want? I want to grow in my faith. I want to grow in my business. I want to grow in my interpersonal relationship skills. And now go find the best person you know in each of those categories and ask them to speak into your life and share your dreams. So now just be very careful who you let speak into your life. And if you remember one thing from this, it's only let people speak into your life that you would want to trade lives with for that very thing.
Yeah. Can you tell me what the Bible says on wealth and abundance and making money? Is there, because I see, and also just like your guys' marketing, and I don't even want to call it marketing. It just like the way you present yourself, the stuff that you put out there, the words that you use, the images and videos that you use, you know, it's like, it's cool, right? You're creating this like feeling and emotion in people that it's like, it's cool to believe in God, right? And so what is it about that? Or like, why is that different than maybe it used to be? And then what does the Bible say, or what does God say? Or what do you guys believe about wealth, abundance, and making money?
Yeah, totally. That's such a good question. And the creators that we got on the cap today, if you're listening, I'm wearing a hat that says creators, creativity over conformity. But the first verse in the Bible, Genesis 1:1, says God created the heavens of the earth. And then Genesis 1:27 says that man was created in the image of God. So we are inherently created to be creative. And I think that's why I'm so passionate in a world of copy and paste, whether that's fast fashion, fast furniture, whatever it might be, is like, we should be looking to the creator of the universe to bring the manifestation of that into the world with like our own ideas and creativity. And as a result of that, when you bring creative things into the marketplace, you're paid and you're rewarded for those things. And so as it relates to your question around money, my favorite story in the Bible is the parable of the talents. And it's this story where Jesus is talking to people, and he has these three people that he's referring to. And he's like, the first person was given X amount related to their talent. The second person was given this amount related to their talent. And this third person, so on and so forth. And he's like, the master gives all these people this treasure, and then he comes back and he asks the first one what they did with the treasure. He's like, hey, I took that thing and I multiplied it and I turned it to 2. He asks the next one, he's like, hey, I took that thing and I multiplied it and I turned it into more. He asks the third person and he's like, what did you do? And they said, I was so fearful, I dug a hole and I buried it because I was too scared to lose it. And the words that Jesus uses is very harsh. He says, you wicked and evil servant. And I think there's this call for us to take what we have and to multiply it, whether that's a skill set, whether that's your ability to like speak into people, share love, make money in the marketplace, because we really like the core to our message is like, we want to make so much money that we can pour it back in. And there's a lot of guys that have come through our community and on their phone, they got the Bugatti, they got whatever car that they want. But it's like, do you want to achieve and to make money so you can have a more consumeristic life? Or do you want to achieve and make money so you can have impact? And I always say, like, God doesn't want us to not have things. He wants things to not have us. And that's what we call idolatry. And so for us, I don't believe that, you know, I guess there's people in the church community, you'll never have too little for them to be like, all right, you're good. But it's like, we hope to have such an impact like in this city that our phone rings from the local officials in the government and we're solving problems like in our city, in our community that the government doesn't know how to solve. And from the outset, it's like, we want to be inventive in solving those problems as it relates to loneliness, homelessness, things of that nature. So what we do believe is like what we make is the first 10% of that goes into doing good, which would be spreading the message and creating opportunities for people to get poured into, like guys like me and guys like Devin.
Yeah, I heard you talk about one time, and I think you mentioned it at the beginning of the podcast, that you want to unite kind of Christian business owners and things and create more of a Christian-based economy. I I don't know if you guys have been down to Utah and been around Salt Lake and driven around, but the Mormon culture down there, like they've created their own economy down there. They've created all their own businesses, all their own stuff. Like there's not a lot of name brand things in Utah because they have united and come together and created their own economy down there.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're thinking of, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. I think it's less about tribalism, like an us versus them. But I feel like it's like I had to wrestle with, why do all of these other religions like really put this family first, community first? Like they're oriented around that. And that opinion that I had to be like, well, Christians need to be doing the same thing. I was really challenged on that, because what's core to the Christian faith is evangelism, and we want people to know the God that we know. And as it relates to some of those other religions, it's like, hey, we're the chosen people, and either you are chosen or you're not, but that's not a belief that we have. So I think that is actually a catalyst for us to do business with everyone, because we're accepting of everyone. We want to reach everybody. And I think there's something to that, but I think it's a double-edged sword, because as it relates to like believers in the marketplace, there is this incredible lack. And I'm yearning for the day when we can come together and push each other forward, because I think with Christian believers, there is this vision that's attached to a lot of those businesses. And a lot of that is to do good. And I mean, how many businesses out there right now in the S&P 500 or wherever they're at, do they have like a North Star to, hey, our goal is to make all this money so we can have XYZ impact? And for a lot of those businesses, I don't think that's the goal.
Yeah. Well, I can feel it with the both of you, and it's just a matter of time before everybody hears what you have to say. And I'm happy to be here putting this out, and so that other people can hear it. This is why I do the podcast, is because I think there's so much stuff that people need to hear that they don't. And that's why it's called For Your Own Good, because this is the stuff that you need to hear because it's for your own good. It's the sharp words from your friends that are keeping you accountable. And so as we close out here, if there's anything else that you want to touch on, but where can they get a hold of you? Where do you want them to find you out there? Yeah,
Instagram's the best place, at Creators ATX. And then our interior design business is at Creators Reclamation.
Awesome. And then any personal Instagram or no?
Yeah, at Tailored Tim, TAILORED TIM. And I didn't actually tell you my origin story coming from New York, but I actually did a little stint with like GQ magazine. And so that dovetails into our design brand as well. We've had a little bit of a passion for flashing a little bit.
Yeah, they're fitted out right now. You should watch the video. Like, no, I mean, this jacket that you got on, I love it. I love the jacket with the hat. Yeah, you guys are doing everything right. The brand fits the stuff that you're putting out there, and I think the message and everything that you guys are doing is absolutely incredible. So I'm happy to be a part of it. I'm happy that you guys came down here. And as always, I appreciate everybody out there. Thank you so much. This has been For Your Own Good. Peace.
Peace.